Hey there, so in this video I'm just going to go over how to do a fetch post. I'm going to show you the server side and also the front end, sort of boilerplate, just for a simple fetch post. And then the second part of the video will be me sort of incorporating it into an app that I want to build. Timestamps will be in the description below just so you can get to where you want to get to. Server is a REST API and it's using Express, running on localhost 3000, and there's a save data function in there as well. There's an artist data JSON file which has no information at the moment. The HTML is, let's just get the server running with NodeMon. Running with NodeMon, so any changes I make in the server file, it will automatically reload or reboot the server for me. The HTML file has just got two inputs and a save artist button wrapped around with a form tag. And the button doesn't do anything because there's no logic in the JavaScript. So I'm going to first of all start off with a boilerplate front end. And you usually put the fetch post in a function. So we're just going to call it save data. And it's going to be an async function. Pass through the events. So the reason why I'm passing through the event is so I can do prevent default, which is just prevent the browser default of the form being submitted, meaning I can put my logic in there and get it to do what I want it to do. We're doing an async function, and that's because there's a few parts in this function which we need to put a wait to, because we need to sort of get JavaScript to wait around for the response from the server. I'll explain further with that when I get to the parts in the function where I can sort of explain better. So const raw response. So this is the raw response from the server. And we'll get that equal to await fetch. Await fetch. The first thing that we want to pass through to fetch is the URL. And then we want to have a comma and then curly brackets. And in these curly brackets would have options. So the first options that we want to pass through is the method. And the method we're doing is a post method. We then want to have the body, and in the body would be the data that we're going to be sending over. So we can't just send over a JavaScript object or JavaScript data. We have to change the format to JSON. And we do that with json.stringify. And I'm just going to say it's data, and then as a string, some information. The next part is headers, and then this is usually what we're sending over. So the content type is application JSON. So that would be our first part. And then the next would be const content is equal to await raw response.json. So just quickly about the awaits. We have await fetch and then our fetch post. And the reason for that is if we didn't have the await here, we would do const raw response fetch and then all of our information. This fetch would go over to the server and it would maybe save this data or it would do whatever you want it to do. And then it would send the raw response back to the front end. However, what JavaScript would do is it would read this part of the function and then it would go straight on to read the rest of our function before actually getting the raw response. So we need to tell JavaScript, we need to say, wait for this raw response, and then continue with the function. It's the same with our content here. So what this line here does is we've got our raw response, but we want to actually read the data or the information that we're sending from the server. And that's what this line does here. It makes it so we actually just get the content that we need. But we need to do await as well because we need to get JavaScript to do this method first, and then we can then get the content. And what we're going to do is do console.log content. And then we're just going to be able to see whatever is sent back in this console here. I'm also going to have to do add an event listener to the window to the button. So we'll do window on load. And then do document.get element by ID. Pretty sure I called it save artist. Where am I? Hey, there we are. Save artist, yep. Save artist. Add an event listener. And I want to add click. And I want it to go to save data. So this would be the boilerplate for the front end. A very simple fetch post. Next part would be the server side. So we'll do, because we're doing a post, we do app.post. Same as if we're doing a get, it's app.get. The first thing we want to pass through is the URL, and this URL has to match our fetch post's URL. Make it exactly the same. We do then comma, and then we need to do our request and response. Or you can do rec and res. And in here, we would then need to get hold of our data. So if I do const our data is equal to rec, I'm just going to console log this. And I will refresh, save artist. And what we're going to have here is the request. So the request from our fetch post. We've got the URL in here. We'd also somewhere have our body. And the body would have all of our data. There's a lot of other information here as well. But what we sort of need is the data. So if we need the body, sorry. So if we do rec.body and now click save artist, we're going to get undefined. And that's because we haven't told our server to accept JSON data. So we need to say, if I just do accept JSON data, and then the way in how we do that is do app.use express.json. And this just says to our server, hey, accept JSON data that we're posting over. So now if I click save artist, we're going to get some information. We're going to get our data. If we literally just want one piece of data, we can do rec.body.data. Click save artist, get some information. If our data, or if it was called something like name, we would then have to change rec.body.name. So whatever you call the property, that's undefined. Okay, rec.body.name. Oh, okay, yeah, I have to refresh this. Save artist, and then some information. We then want to maybe save this. So, I don't know, save data. And then we'll do res.json. And then this is the response that we're sending over. So, data has been saved. If I click save artist, we now get data has been saved. So, we've got the raw response and we're waiting around for that. Once we've got the raw response, our content, the information that we need and what we're sending over is data has been saved. So it is whatever you put in here. This is literally the very simple server side of the fetch post. I'm now going to adapt it all so it's for what I want. I'm going to get it to save the artist information or the artist data that we're putting in the input boxes. So I need to get that the values. So if I do const artist name is equal to document document dot get element by ID, artist name and artist Twitter. artist name, and I want the value of this. And Twitter. The URL is going to be API new artist. The information or the data, the body, is going to be called name, artist name, and also Twitter. So artist Twitter. Headers is the same and the content is the same. Console login, we'll keep it at that. The only other thing I want to do is reset the form. So if I do document, goodness me, get element by ID, pretty sure I've just called it form, and then just reset that. Cool. So now I'll go to my server. The URL I've changed to API new artist. The data is going to be, let's just get rid of that. Const new artist is equal to artist name rec.body, and then because I've called the property name, I can just get that data straight away. And then the same for the Twitter as well. So artist Twitter rec.body.twitter. I then want to, I need to get it to read the artist data JSON file. So if I do const artist data is equal to json.parse fs.read file sync, and then the file I want to read is artist data.json. I then want it to save a new artist each time without going over the old data. I'm not going to make it so that if you put in the same artist, it's going to not let you save that same artist again. I'll do that later on. But for now, I just want it to save new artists each time. So if I do artist data, and I want to have the name first, so if I do new artist dot artist name, and then I'll have this object equal to for the data of new artist. And now I want to save this JavaScript object that we've passed and we've changed. So if I do save data, I want to save that JavaScript object back into the JSON file. So what we've got is we're reading this file, and then we're adding a new artist to it using this line. So we're creating a new artist. We're then adding this new artist to the JSON file or to the JSON object. And we're getting, instead of it being called new artist, we're going to make it the artist name. So it'll be like Silverstein, and then artist name Silverstein. Artist Twitter would be the Twitter for Silverstein. We want to save that data, and then we want to save it to artist data.json. And then in here, I'll have backticks, $, curly braces, and I'm going to make it so it's having the name. So new artist dot artist name has been saved. So now if I refresh this, make sure it's running, And then if I type in Silverstein, get the Twitter, and then save artist, Silverstein has been saved. That's looking good there. Artist data, Silverstein, and then we've got the data that we need. Now, if I just make sure that it's not going to delete this data, it shouldn't do, but we do another one. So, psychostick, if I can spell, get their Twitter, and then click Save Artist. And then psychostick has been saved, and you can see the data here is there as well. However, if I was going to put Silverstein in here, and then a bunch of information, it would go over and delete this information and replace it with whatever we put here. But that's where I'm going to change later on to say this artist has already been saved. So you can't do that. But for now, that's my finished part for now for the server side or the fetch post. And then the same for the front end.